number of companies, if I could use the word, have suddenly mushroomed in fintech. What do you think? Are there any entry barriers? Do you have the challenge of this just being the flavor of the month, or is this sustainable?
Oh, I wanted not to comment on demonetization. We have talked so much about it, but just to answer your question, on an overall portfolio level impact, at least the short-term impact was negative on our portfolio at least. But now at a portfolio level, the revenue numbers at least are back up, or more than what they were in November. On the payment companies, I think they had a sort of, the other kind of impact. They sort of, you see a spike in their usage, especially on the companies on the payment side. But, we have different kinds of companies. So I mean, fintech is not just payments. So I think the way we look at payments is on the consumer side, we have companies in the insurance sector, which is on the insurance broking side. We have one in robo-advisory. We have one in personal finance management. We have a bunch of companies in lending. So on the lending side, the lending increased, but it's too early to say whether the money will come back also, right? So because it's one way to give out money, the other thing is to sort of get the money back. We have seen things stabilize to a new normal, which was higher than the old normal. So I would say overall, jury's still out. We're still early to say which way it's going to go.
So sure, as opposed to return on capital, you're concerned of return of your capital rather than return on capital.
Return just on the capital,
right.
Yeah.
Shrikant, in terms of Hyderabad Angels, and I've seen it grow, but the kind of companies, it was largely dominated by IT in Hyderabad. And that was some bit of a complaint from life sciences companies also saying that they didn't have space there. Are you seeing the increased traction from fintech, or what's the mix that you're seeing?
Yeah. So we do have one company called Indian Money as part of our portfolio. We've been invested in them now for more than 3 to 4 years. I would say this is more in the consumer finance space. And we did evaluate something in the Bitcoin space without taking the name. It's one of the top 2 players in India today. And as we speak, we're doing something in the lending space and also something in the blockchain technology space. So just to answer your question, I mean, we do have, if not a very large percentage of our portfolio in terms of fintech or consumer finance, we do have one portfolio company. Going forward, definitely would like to add few more. And otherwise, I mean, we tend to be, like any other VC, scalable asset-light models. That's what we look for. Biotechnology, pharma, some of them, my view is that they might not see very early stage pre-Series A rounds. They might move directly to a PE round subsequently. So that could be one of the cases.
One of the challenges that we've faced in India is getting funding for proof of concept. Getting the basic idea off the ground. And Puneet, we were discussing this a short while ago in terms of your experience in Singapore of at least having the government or other players fund the initial stage, at least to get a proof of concept, where then you can use it as a bait and exchange and look at the next set of investors. Could you relate to that?
Yeah, I think that's a very important stage of the whole evolution of the life cycle, that there are many very good ideas, but they somehow don't get an opportunity to see the light of the day because that initial ignition that is required for them, that is not available. And I know that, for example, in Singapore, there are a number of different organizations that have actually are partaking in this thing and are getting these companies off the ground. I would say that one specific instance, for example, is the Singapore MIT Alliance for Research and Technology, SMART. And what they do is they identify companies, they give them $250,000 of grant. They're funded by the National Research Foundation, which has a $19 billion funding corpus. And these companies are essentially allowed to then look at the technology, build a proof of concept, and at that point in time get up on pitch day where they then either get funding or they die. But at least they have the opportunity to get to that point. And the big part of that is not just capital alone, but very strong mentorship. So they have something called a catalyst program where actually they get industry advisors to get closely associated with these companies. So I think if in the ecosystem you have that at an early stage, what it does is it actually gets to the people here who are particularly on the early stage, the deal flow becomes much better qualified. So I think if that can be done in the ecosystem, that's a very good help.
You were talking about seed funding, and funding is, of course, just one part of the entire ecosystem that you have to build, and there are always one or two elements missing. So, what would you think that as the fintech hub comes up in Vizag, that the stakeholders and the government should focus on beyond funding?
Sure. I think, everybody knows, that funding is just a commodity, right? Money is always there, cash is always there. I think what I feel that the AP FinTech Valley should focus on is to create corporate distribution partnerships. Where will these startups scale, right? It's important because startups have very less money, they have to do more with less, they have to scale fast, and corporates have huge scalable resources. So I think the whole ecosystem that you're building here, I think, is fantastic because you have the right corporates who have the customers and the distribution channels and the regulations and the mentorship. And then you have startups who can bring agility so corporates can actually benefit from that. And investors like us would like to take bets on startups which are able to reach a large number of customers through one sales channel versus actually burning a lot of money trying to reach many customers.
Utkarsh, you were talking about just venturing or foraying into the fintech stage, and this is a little early for you. So would you consider co-investing, or would you consider in terms of partnering with other enterprises or corporates as your investment strategy?
Hello? Yeah. So whatever investments we have done till date, we have always led the round because we come in very early, mostly at seed or even at earlier than that. That is what we try to do. We are always open to syndicates, but then I guess the colleagues from be it from Axel or the Antil Ventures, we always look for the right partners when it comes to the investment round. So we always make sure that our thoughts are aligned when it comes to that particular company, where that particular partner will try to take this company along, maybe in the long run. So we're always open to it, but it's not the case. That's what we look at. So.
Abhinav, could you tell us what is the average ticket size? So, the cutoff level that would seem attractive to you in terms of, because the size and the variety of companies that we have in this space, there's a huge variance.
Sure, absolutely. So, I mean, typically it varies and sort of their horses for courses kind of thing. So at seed stage, typically companies would raise anywhere from $200,000 to say $500,000. If you have a proof of concept, then anywhere from $1 to $3 million is what companies want to get to. And $1 to $3 million is typically, you have a product which is working, you want to scale it up to a point where you can say it's working at a larger level, and then you go in for a growth capital round, which is more, double-digit $1 million. And you have investors in each of these, specializing in each of these categories. So you'll have seed and pre-seed investors, then you'll have, someone like us who's doing sometimes seed or Series A's, and then you'll have, a bunch of investors in the Series B rounds, who look at, a large company, perhaps proven unit economics, and you need growth capital to build a fairly large business. So those are the ticket sizes which we typically look at.
One of the initiatives that some governments have used is floating their own fund. And they have done this as a lead investor and then have invited investments from others. Would any of you consider participating in such a fund?
When you say participating, can you elaborate?
As either a general partner or a limited partner. As a fund of funds.
Well, we have a fund of funds in India, for instance. Yeah. But your hypothetical question is about the government setting up a fund and...
The AP government had an APIDC venture capital fund, which became enormously successful. Wow. And this is, again, an initiative which can be emulated in the fintech area as well. But it's good to test the water, so to say.
No, so I think I see the value for a fund manager being a fund advisor or a fund manager for the fund and bringing in some practices that will allow the fund to succeed. So for instance, you have a fintech, you have a tremendous vision for fintech valley right now. But what are some hard outcomes that you're seeking? You know, how many successes do you want in 6 months, 1 year, 18 months? What's your roadmap? What kind of companies do you want to see succeed in how much time? What scale, what size, what global footprint? I think helping you tangibilize this kind of a vision and sort of articulating a clear roadmap that helps you get there is clearly value that we can add.
I just want to add one thing, Utkarsh, that I think one of the big things that governments can do, and I think it was talked about earlier on in the introduction, that governments can create use cases and create market access. And I think, again, that was again talked about. So that is the very big issue. And I think that should not be undermined. That shouldn't be underplayed. Startups suffer, frankly, not from capital, actually, but they really suffer because they haven't had the ability to get early market access and test it out. You know, many of us on the panel wear glasses, so I always like to use the ophthalmological analogy to say, when I go to a doctor, I can't see well, and the doctor says, is this better, is this better, is this better, is this better? To your point, you say, voila, this is what I see. Companies go through that. They have the entrepreneur has a roadmap, but until and unless he or she tests it out with a real enterprise, then the proof doesn't play through. And ability to provide that market access, that I think is a very big role that governments can play.
Just on the fund of funds model, I just came back from a roadshow from Europe to a couple of family offices. So money is there, right? I mean, they want to invest. And my partner said, why don't we do a $150 million fund? I said, great, but where will we deploy this, right? Where's the deal flow? Right, so it's not tough to raise money, it's tough to deploy. So we've actually invested as a fund of funds into SOSV, which is the world's largest seed investor. So we get a great deal flow from across the world, and then we can pick and choose the ones that we want to invest. Right? So I think it's important from even a government perspective to invest into one of these large global seed funds so that the deal flow becomes much stronger. And then, it kind of gives that.
So the clock ahead of us is showing about 11 minutes till we wind down. So this is a good opportunity. I'm going to pause here and throw the floor open for questions. You've heard several times the panelists saying, oh, there's no dearth of funds. So please, hold them accountable for that statement. And I'm sure they've got their checkbooks with you. Please identify yourself and please keep your question brief so that we could have more questions.
We'll just get some mics to you in the audience. First question from Mr. Chaudhary. Can we have the yellow mic on, please? Yeah, it's working, sir. It's working.
Yeah. I think if you speak into it, it'll start.
Check.
Hello. Yeah. So as we are discussing about the fund, actually our Honorable Chief Minister agreed to create a fund, 100 crore fund for the fintech startups who are going to be located in the fintech valley. We are looking at how do we structure the fund, how do we make this fund available to the startup companies who are going to be located. And also, as I emphasized in my opening remarks, we are going to create the repository of use cases, starting from the AP government and going to other banks. And I think that's the most crucial thing many startups are looking for. And even the $1 million challenge award, that money we wanted to give to the startup companies who are the winners as a reimbursement. For example, we'll give them the use cases or whatever. For reimbursement of that $1 million can be spent, so that our intention of having not only winning the prize, they have to be in FinTech Valley while developing or customizing whatever those use cases which we are going to provide. So those two are a very important thing that we are also seriously looking at. How do we make the startup companies succeed?
Sure. Do we have any lady there in the white?
Can we request you to stand up, ma'am, so the cameras can catch you?
Hello, can you hear me? Good morning, everybody. I'm Mansha, and I represent a small startup called Infinity Solutions from Chennai, and we are planning to have a small branch in Vizag. So I would need a lot of cooperation from the government. My question is more to do with the use cases repository that you were talking about, sir, and as Puneet also mentioned. What do you think should be our approach to, access the use cases? How do you see us approaching the use cases? And we definitely are looking for more of those.
You can use my mic, sir.
Just take the example of today's conference. Though it's just not even 2 months exercise, we have created so many use cases from 5 different, all those banks and insurance companies. They already gave the use cases and we ran the challenge competition. I thought, with government connections within the government, we can create a lot of such use cases. And we have so many problems in the country with the government, with the banks, and with so many institutions. So definitely, we are going to, as I mentioned, we are going to create a separate division who will be